Hello and welcome to another episode of Statford Bridge Chelsea by the numbers. Settle in, folks. That's me adjusting my chair. We're in for a long one. If you have children, I would suggest cover your ears. There will probably be a few F-bombs in this one. Chelsea lose 2-1 at home to Fulham. It's the first time we've lost to Fulham in the Premier League in 45 years. It's the first time we've lost to Fulham at Stamford Bridge ever. And I don't really care about the derby stuff. I think that matters much more for Arsenal and Spurs. What matters to me are a few things. Chelsea played mostly terribly. They were ineffective at creating chances. Basically, the only thing they did well in terms of creating chances was set pieces. So for all the consternation complaining about the set pieces, Chelsea were very good on set pieces. They were rubbish at just about everything else. And it was so predictably how it was going to go wrong that every single person, man, woman, child, smart or not, looked at the lineup and said, oh, they're going to be tired. Every single person said the exact same thing. Chelsea made one change from the Everton game. Marc Cucurella came in for Disasi. Gusto went to right back. And every single other person was the same. And nobody played well. I think Enzo was okay. I thought Palmer was okay. I thought Sanchez was okay. Not great, but okay. I thought Colwill was all right. But I don't think anyone was good. Maybe Cucurella, but even then, I don't think so. I don't think anyone was good. And what I thought after 4 minutes was that Chelsea looked so tired. The first 15 minutes of the game, Chelsea are totally unable to get control of the ball and to actually control the tempo. Cole Palmer scores a wonderful goal. A wonderful goal that was very reminiscent of the Hazard goal against West Ham. But other than that, you would really, really struggle to name high quality stuff Chelsea generated. It was, somebody told me it was the first time Chelsea have lost the box touch battle since going back, going all the way back since West Ham and Brighton. That's how long it's been since Chelsea have lost the box touch battle. And they got killed. They were not, it was the whole second half was every single person just waiting for the equalizer. And when they equalized, waiting for the winner. It was so obviously coming the whole time. And every single person reacted the same. And then we get one sub. We get Christopher Nkunku for Nicholas Jackson at 73 minutes. And that's it. Cole Palmer is bent over, hands on knees, 20 minutes into the game. Dead tired. And look, I don't really subscribe so much to the Chelsea aren't training hard enough, like Poch comparison. I don't know. None of us know. But clearly this team was not even close to being able to play this game at the intensity they needed to. And we have seen 3 games in a row that against Brentford, we died at 75. Against Everton, we died at 65. Today, we died at 55. If you look at the McClockbot stuff, Chelsea are pretty good until 55 minutes. It's this real big scraggly moment after they don't score at the start of the second half, and then nothing till the end of the game when they're chasing to go win it. If we look at the Mark Our Stat spot, you hit 60 minutes and you're in control. You're not playing well, but you're firmly in control. And then the rest of the game, you get pammed until you get some good chances at the end. It was so predictable. It was so predictable. And if you look at the squad, we have 2 goalkeepers. Nani Madueke is left out for a quote-unquote technical decision, and we'll come back to that. And nobody gets used. Achimpong doesn't get used. Disasi doesn't get used. Felix doesn't get used. Guiu or George or Cassidy. Nobody gets used as these guys die on their feet on the pitch. You watch both Fulham goals. Both Fulham goals happen at the back post. Malagusto's not even in the picture. He's somewhere up here inverting. The only thing he inverted was the scoreline. And it's very frustrating because it was so predictable. And it's so predictable that Chelsea were obviously going to die. We're going to go, and for the next 20 minutes, we're going to read through a bunch of academic literature from that anyone can find. You don't need a special license to find this. You don't need a PhD in sports science, and I'm sure Chelsea employ PhDs in sports science. You don't need any of this. You literally just have to read and be open to someone teaching you things. So first, The Athletic posted a lovely article yesterday on Christmas talking to David Thorp. I think this is his name, David Thorp, Robin Thorp, who used to work for United, looking at, he was a sports scientist at United. And you can look through and see how teams did in the Christmas period versus how often they rotated. And one of the things he saw was that United didn't rotate enough in the 2013-14 season, which I think was a David Moyes season, and it did not work for them. And they measured all these different sports science metrics, heart rate variability, whatever, showing like, oh, actually the players are like not able to recover. Opta for Athletic ran the exact same analysis for last Christmas, December 11th to January 11th, and looked at all the teams who qualified for Europe and looked how good did they perform versus how much did they rotate. Arsenal won 1 of the 6 games they played in that period. They only made 3 lineup changes per game. Newcastle won 2 in the same period. They only made 2.5. Manchester United only won 2. They made 2.5. Villa and Brighton won 3. They made 3.5 and 4. City won 6. They made 4.5. Liverpool won 5. They won 5.5. The teams who won more changed more. This is not rocket science. The teams who won more changed more. Because they changed more, their players were less tired and they won more. Liverpool made 38 lineup changes across 8 matches. City made 25 across 7 matches. They used 26 and 24 players. They had 23 and 20 different players start games. They only had 4 and 2 players play in every match in that stretch because you can't. It's too hard. And this was last year, and the United analysis is from 2013-14. It's hard to press like this. Chelsea had a PPDA of 4 against Everton. They had a PPDA of like 7 against Brentford. Their PPDA today, if I pull up... I don't know. I don't even know if it's in here. If it's in the marker stats, Chelsea's PPDA today was 12. That's the worst, the highest, the least pressy their PPDA has been in months and months and months. Chelsea were outpossessed today for the first time in months. All of these things happen because your team is exhausted. Moving on, let's look at subs. Enzo Maresca used 4 of his last 15 substitutions. You get 5 a game. He used 1 today. He used 1 against Everton. Here you go. No, sorry. He used 2 against Everton. And then if we go back to Brentford, and I'm having a mare because I'm really flustered and frustrated. If we go back to Brentford in the league, and you go back here, he used 1 in this game as well. He used 4 of 15 substitutions. In what world is that enough? And I flagged this up with him coming from Leicester that he was not very subby. His subs only played 15 minutes a game. He only averaged like 3.5 subs a game. And I said, this is not going to work. It's not going to fly. And Leicester had such a tremendous talent advantage in the championship that you get away with it. And I said, it's not going to work here. Everyone is better. You have more good players. And you can get away with not rotating when you win every game. But you are not winning every game. You're not going to be able to get away with not rotating. Let's go look at what the literature says. Here's a paper from 2023. SP is substituted players. RP is the players who were subbed off. EMP are players who played the entire match. What do we see? In high intensity distance, substitutes run faster for longer. Substitutes have more sprint distance. Substitutes score more. They take more shots. They have better ball controls. They have more key passes. They have more crosses. They have more breakthroughs. They have so on, so on, so on, so on, so on. everything. They do everything more. You know why they do everything more? Because they're not tired. Moving on. We go to another one. We look at the same physical metrics. Enzo Maresca said today, we gave them energy. No, not we. You gave them energy because you didn't want to sub. Here's more. What do we see? Substitutes have more medium intensity movements. They have more high speed movements. They have more sprints. They have more high intensity running. And this is at the beginning of the season they have more. In the middle of the season they have more. At the end of the season they have more. All of these things are true that the subs run more. So if you want energy and you want a team to be able to exert control in the game, because to be very clear, the reason Chelsea were unable to exert control today is because Fulham were very smart. And the way they set up was in a 5-2-2-1, and we're not even going to get the tactics board out because I don't care, was they pressed Chelsea player to player in their build-up 4, knowing that if you put 5 at the back, Chelsea are going to try and put 6 on the last line, like they've done all season, and you're going to be able to press 4v4. So they had the wingers press the wide center backs. They had the 9 press the middle center back and the goalkeeper. They had one of their double sixes press Caicedo, and they had one of the double sixes sit and mark Cole Palmer. And then they had the back 5 manage everybody else. And that was how they handled the whole game. And they did not let Chelsea's center backs settle to progress. If you look at stuff like the Mark Stat Spot, it's a whole lot of Cole Will ball progression. A whole lot of Enzo ball progression. Not very much from Gusto. Not very much from Sanchez, who just hoofed the ball long the whole game. But nothing from Cucurella as a passer. Very little from Caicedo as a passer. Very little from Palmer as a passer. Because they just totally denied Chelsea's ability to stably progress, which has been a thing all year, that if you deny Chelsea's ability to stably progress, they struggle to create high-quality scoring chances. Because this is what the Premier League is. It's the best players in the world and the best coaches in the world. They watch you. They see the games. Again, people want to talk about low block. Fulham did not play in a low block. Fulham pressed and had the ball and pressed very high the whole game. And if Chelsea were able to stably get to the final third, then they dropped into 5-4-1 and defended. But Fulham pressed. They sprinted every single time Robert Sanchez got the ball. Watch any of the goal kicks and tell me Fulham didn't press. It's not about low blocks. And it's the same thing that I say every week. The only low block Chelsea have had trouble with this year is Everton. Fulham pressed very aggressively. Bournemouth pressed very aggressively. Liverpool pressed very aggressively. United pressed very aggressively. City pressed kind of aggressively. And those are all the games Chelsea have had trouble with. Spurs pressed very aggressively and then died physically. I thought in this game Chelsea might get away with it because Fulham would die. They didn't. Because they're losing and they're chasing the game. And guess what? Their coach made subs. I can go back and I can go look at it again. And I can go Chelsea and I can go look at 2-1 and I can go look at the match facts and I can go see what is this? Sub, goal, goal. Again, it's not hard. It's really not hard. We can move on to the next one. This is a paper looking at the actual effect directly on goal scoring for the teams pre and post substitutions. If you substitute first as the home team, you get goals more than the other team, and the other team is more likely to concede. If you sub first as the away team, you score less than home teams because home teams have home advantage, but you reduce the probability the home team scores. If you are the home team and you sub second, you make the second substitution first. Again, you also increase your chance to score. The same thing happens with the away team subbing first. It is not hard for me to look and say, that's a bigger number than 0. I want that for my team. It's not hard. And again, you can look at this and say, 0.002, that's a very small number. It's a really small improvement. We're talking about the Premier League. If you can make decisions that get you 1 extra goal a season or 2 extra goals a season because you took the time to make the subs at the right time, objectively worth it. All the time, objectively worth it. It's not hard. The research is here. You can go type in literally substitution soccer research, substitution football research, and find it. And there are thousands of papers because it's super easy to study. You can look at the data, it's all there. Here's another one. This is a paper analyzing one of Brett Myers, who's like an OG analytics prof from 2012, where if you're losing, here are the times you should make your substitutions to improve your goal probability. If you're losing, if you sub 58, 73, 79 to make your subs, this is before the 5 substitution era, you improve your goal differential 43% of the time. If you sub at differently to this, earlier, later, not as many, you improve your goal differential 20% of the time. This is over thousands of games. Like, this is not nothing. And okay, maybe this looks a little bit different now with 5 subs, and pressing looks very different now than it did in 2009, 2010. Of course. But like, what are we doing here? This is all available to you. You have a data department. We're going to talk about Sachin Gupta and Chelsea's newfangled data department. This is the benefit of this. Putting aside the recruitment benefits, you can do research as a club and say, hey, I'm Enzo Maresca. Hey guys, like, we play 10 times in the next 24 days or whatever ridiculous schedule it is. How should I be rotating my squad here? How should I be rotating my squad here physically? Everyone, the Athletic wants to talk about, oh, look how few injuries we've had with the new performance and player health department, where there's 15 directors because the title inflation at Chelsea is disgusting. It's like 57 middle managers. You want to talk about this, and then we get 15 muscle injuries. Clearly he's not listening to you. Clearly he's not, because he's not subbing, and there's players getting injured, and he's not using the subs. Again, we move on to another one. You want to talk, okay, maybe Enzo Maresca is a tactically inclined head coach. He's only going to make the substitutions that are going to impact the game tactically. Pep doesn't like the sub. You can change your tactical shapes and see. If you look at every number here that has a hashtag or a star, it means there is a significant difference before and after a substitution. You want to play narrower, you can make a sub to do that. You want to play deeper, you can make a sub to do that. You want to play higher, you can make a sub to do that. You can change your team's tactics with substitutions. That seems like an obvious thing. Duh. It's good to see. Actually, you can totally do that. It is impactful. Maybe you should try it. If you feel, oh, we don't have enough control in this game, maybe we can do something. This space control number. Perhaps, oh, look at that. It is statistically significant. We can change our space control, whatever their metric means in this one. We can change our space control by making a substitution. All of this is here. You can find this. I started prepping for this podcast 8 minutes before I started recording to pull all these tabs up. And I have a day job. I don't sit in the office all day thinking about Chelsea. I don't get paid millions of dollars. It is not an unrealistic expectation for the coach of a Premier League football club to have actual reasoning behind why he is doing specific things. You cannot just say, we needed control and we didn't have any, we gave them energy. Have a reason for actually believing this. And you want to like go back to prior Chelsea managers. This is why I like Thomas Tuchel, because Thomas Tuchel, a lot of the things he did were actually embedded in science. They came from a place of like actual thinking about the game. The reason sessions were designed the way they were was to maximize learning. The reason they made tactical decisions was based on the data. Thomas Tuchel was a very analytically open coach. Jurgen Klopp got better because he was open to things like this. Arsene Wenger was one of the best coaches of all time because he was open to things like this. If Enzo Maresca is not, I don't know if he's the guy. Kieran and Post is jumping in because here's another example that's even better that I forgot about. We did some research at ASA after Jim Curtin, who was the coach of the Philadelphia Union, did a quote saying, you can rotate, but the data shows if you rotate 4 or more players, you'll lose. And what we saw in the data was 2 things. If you play really well, you have a really, really good game, you don't really want to change more than 3 guys. You do see a drop in your predicted X points, both home and away from home, if you rotate 4 guys or more after you play really, really well. If I go back to the Chelsea spreadsheet, Chelsea didn't play well against Everton. They did not play that well against Brentford. They did not play that well against Spurs. You have to think about the team you're using, and this data is all there. But I wanted to go back and show this because this is a good one. Back to live. So there's my substitutions rant. Make the fucking subs. It's ridiculous. If there is anything other than at least 9 changes for Ipswich, it's ridiculous. The only player who should play the Ipswich game is Cucurella. That's it. He's the only one. Nobody else should play. Not Palmer, not Jackson, not Colwill, not Tosit, none of them. Figure out the midfield. I don't care. It'll probably go poorly. Maybe Caicedo. Those are the 2. I would squint at, because you actually have nobody who can do Caicedo's job because Romeo Lavia is permanently broken. So that's my substitution rant. My second rant. Nani Madueke doesn't make the squad. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall doesn't make the squad. Why did you buy him if he's not even making squads? Nani Madueke was left out as a quote-unquote technical decision. It is, one, a farce that there was no follow-up to that answer of you made a technical decision to include 2 goalkeepers and not your winger with 10 goals and assists this season. How is there no follow-up to that? That he is able to get away with that as an answer, because that's ridiculous. The second half of this is that if your technical decision is have Gusto follow Iwobi here and have Neto track Robinson into your own box and try again, if you look at the equalizer, Neto tries to throw an elbow to catch Robinson, gets blown up, and it's a cross for a goal because he can't move his feet to defend. What are we doing here? What technical decision can you possibly justify? Again, maybe Madueke did something. Maybe he went out on a night out. Maybe he was hungover. Maybe he phoned it in training. I have no idea. And maybe there's a perfectly reasonable answer to all of this. But I look at this team, and I look at the lack of subs, and I look at everything, and I'm like, that's not a reasonable answer. That's fully not a reasonable answer. So there's my gripes. In terms of what this game actually means, Chelsea go from 94% top 4 probability to 90%. Doesn't really matter. Newcastle beating Villa probably introduces a few wrinkles to you. But Villa and Spurs lost. Forest now have real actual top 4 equity at 10% because they keep winning and their metrics are quite good. Fulham, I'm not really worried about. Same with Forest. I think they drop off. They're getting some quite fortunate game statey things in their favor, the way they play. I would be truly shocked if they put up 60 points. But we'll see. We'll see where they go from here. Nonetheless, I think ultimately the thing that is quite nice, and the reason I'm not in full meltdown, is that Chelsea have bought enough distance from last year that things can go poorly sometimes, and they can be fine. Chelsea were before this game projected for 79 because they won this game last year. You lose, you're at 76. You lose some of your buffer. Nobody else is projected above 60. You have room. You have a lot of room that you should be fine. But again, you go into the next 3 and it's that room goes away very quickly if you don't start winning. Bournemouth is a tough game. Palace is a tough game. Ipswich are not awful. They're much better than Southampton. They're a real team. So let's see. Chelsea over the next however many won 5, drew 1, lost 1. Like that's a lot of points. You gotta win. You gotta win some of these games. And if you go even further than that, they won 7, drew 2, lost 1. Like that's a very solid 10-game stretch. Can you put up a similar amount of points? We're gonna find out. I'll tell you right now, Chelsea don't sub. Probably not. Probably not. The second, third, fourth, whatever, eighth half of this is that there's a lot of talk that this is because Enzo Maresca doesn't like his bench and that he wants reinforcement in the market. There's been some chatter that he wants a defensive midfielder. I don't think he's going to get that unless that defensive midfielder's name is Andre Santos or Leslie Ugochukwu. I don't think he's going to get that, and it's certainly not going to be Ugochukwu. It might be Santos, but I would be quite surprised. The Athletic put out a what is the January window going to look like for Chelsea thing, and you can read through it. They're pretty informed. It's a lot of, we'll probably add a striker next summer. There's a lot of names on that list. There's going to be a lot of moving parts out. Get Chilwell out, get Chukwuemeka out, Cassidy, Harvey Vale, Alex Matos, maybe Dewsbury Hall, maybe Axel Disasi, maybe loans, maybe permanence. Guiu will probably stay. There's not players coming. He's not going to get what he wants here. He's not going to get transfer say, which I don't think he admittedly wants, but he's not going to get other players. Maybe there's some shuffling of deck chairs. Ugochukwu or Santos comes back to give you a little bit more in midfield instead of Cassidy. I think that's totally reasonable. But that's it. That's the deals. There's not players coming. So this is the team. And you are either going to keep the team you have and keep playing them as they die on the field every week, and you run out of gas every week, and every week, or you can make some fucking subs and hopefully win a few games. Anyways, that's all for me. We'll be back. I don't know after Ipswich. We'll be back after Ipswich. As always, enjoy the soccer.